And they're off.
Okay, team, it's my favourite time of year, and I'm not talking about the southern hemisphere, spring into summer. I'm talking about the Further Faster Super Sale running from the 31st of October to the 15th of November. Further Faster, the best independently owned outdoor store in the known universe, our ride or die from day one. They've been on board with Dirt Church Radio, and this is the time of year where they've got end-of-line and samples up to 50% off, recycled gear up to 70% off. Look, if you don't believe me, head along to their website, www.furtherfaster.co.nz. Check out the specials. The most incredible range of camping, tramping, walking, running, kayaking, adventure gear that you'll ever see. Or better yet, head along to the store, 57A, Buchan Street, which is in Sydenham, Otutahi, Christchurch. Tell them Matt, Ali and Andrew from Dirt Church Radio sent you, and maybe yell this jingle into Rocky's face. He really loves it.
It goes something like further, faster, there in Christchurch. Rocky is hairy and so is Badger. Jules is nice and Jacob is delicious. Go to further, faster now.
Oh, further, faster, there in Christchurch. Rocky is hairy and so is Badger. Jules is nice and Jacob is delicious. Go to further, faster now.
Dirt Church Radio.
In the last couple of weeks. Not a huge amount.
Not a huge amount, but here we are anyway. Dirt Church Radio number 349. We finally got the count right. I'm Matt Raymond.
I'm Ali Pottinger.
I'm Andrew McDowell. I just realised you were recording that. So people that did amazing things in the last couple of weeks are currently thinking that I am scum of the earth. Yeah, like how could you say that? Kanoka Hazumi just winning the 100K championships and beating all the dudes. That counts, doesn't it? So sorry, Kanoka.
Hey, look. It's nice to see you guys again. We've had a little bit of and by you guys, I mean you guys that we can't see out in podcast land, and also both of you. Thanks to those of you who reached out to us about our break. Honestly, there was lots of like, are you guys okay? What's happening?
Oh, please.
Yeah.
Oh, was there?
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah. Ali was on holiday.
Yeah.
And Andrew and I were going to do an A station, but then our recording day fell on Labor Day. So we decided to follow the precepts of self-care and enjoy a long weekend. And I mean, not that it's our fault, but apologies also for our previous episode being zoinked by the Amazon outage. That really sucked and we lost some epic content. However, the epic content just keeps coming. And I'd just like to check in. Andrew, how's your Y2K training going, mate?
Oh, yeah. You know how like before a race you always fall into that little trough of like, oh, I don't know if I'm ready for this. So I'm feeling a bit rubbish. You have a few bad runs. There's always a few bad training runs and you just kind of think to yourself, I don't know, maybe, should I do it? Yeah, and that's where I am right now. So I'm sure this is just the valley and I'm on my way to the peak and everything will be fine. But right now, yeah, just a couple of sort of, go out for a run. Everything's feeling a bit tight, not quite hitting your stride and you're not quite sure why. There's nothing particularly wrong. But I think, that's probably normal. We're less than 3 weeks out now.
So you will be, what's your standard sort of taper?
Very little. And it depends on the enormity, that's not the right word, of the event. Enormity, thank you. English. So Y2K, no offense to Y2K, but it's not a focus race. I'm hoping to just go there and enjoy the track, trail, if you like, and the people, and it's going to be good fun. Obviously, I say all these things, and then the gun goes off and the red mist descends, and I get competitive immediately. But I'm taking a little slightly more namaste approach to it, so I won't taper too much. I'll probably still have full weeks. I'll only start to slow things down about 8 days out. So the last week might be 40 or 50K leading into the actual run itself. Yeah.
And what distance are you doing?
100 kilometres apparently. I don't know much about it. First half is harder than the second half, which, as in technicality-wise, it's very difficult, the first half. But I don't know how much vert there is, and obviously I've never seen a step of the course. So that's exciting. It's pretty cool to be doing something completely new and foreign. And I won't see anything until race day, which is pretty cool because I'm not getting there till kind of late.
And you smashed out a pretty epic 50K the other day in Riverhead. That looked like for all your... And that's the thing, isn't it? Self-reflection is the thief of joy. But that looked fun.
Yeah, the 50K was good. I'm still trying to find the perfect 30K loop in Riverhead where you don't have any repeats and you come back to the gate and it's exactly 30K. And I got so close, 29.9. I couldn't believe it, 100 metres short. That bothered me greatly, but I will find that extra little tweak. It'll be there somewhere. So,
If you do, and this is very, very granular,
Sorry,
forgive us,
people.
but we know that there are lots of Riverhead athletes out there. If you park by the by the chi place where they make the chi, can't remember that. It's a
I have
Sawmill
no
Road.
idea where that is. but sure.
It's the first road. You drive down Forestry Road and then you go in there. If you park there.
Oh, I
it's
see.
about-
Park further.
about
Yeah,
600
no. I'm
metres?
trying to, because then you've still got an out and back, and I'm trying to avoid that bit because it sucks. I hate flat gravel. So boring.
Okay.
It's like
It's only 600 metres.
but yeah, punishing. I mean, no repeats. You literally like, nothing overlapping. So, but yeah, flat gravel and running on a beach, my two least favourite forms of running. I'd rather run on a flat road than flat gravel for some reason. I enjoy that more.
Ali, how was your holiday?
It was wonderful. It was really good. Yeah, just proper holiday. It was nice. So I went to Rarotonga with my family, and it's actually nice going back to a place you've been before where you don't feel like you've got to do anything touristy, anything like that. Just chill out, eat food, swim, kayak, run,
Run on the beach?
No, I didn't run on the beach, actually.
You didn't run on the beach?
No, I didn't.
Did you sort of get inland a little? Because it gets pretty jungly and wild
I
pretty quick,
wanted
eh?
to. There's the Cross Island Walk that I'd like to do, but my Achilles has been a bit niggly, so I didn't want to go and do a very technical, hilly something
fair
with
enough.
it. Yeah.
Beautiful
So-
king ferns in Rarotonga.
Stunning place. Yeah, so that was good. How about you, Matt? How are you?
Yeah, I had a really, really nice, a really Auckland weekend.
Auckland weekend.
Yeah, and there'll be people out there who'll be going, "Oh, what do you mean you sat in traffic for 6 hours and paid $38 for a chicken and cranberry panini?"
Beautiful.
Well, that too, but I we were speaking off mic, Haley. I'm just starting to string together some nice weeks of progress and lots of like hiking as well. My foot is getting better. It's been annoying that I've had this kind of thing, this bursitis, for a whole year. That sucks. But very, very, very proud brother-in-law. My wife's sister got elected to the Auckland Council
Oh, wow, that's
this
big
weekend. And
news.
she's the first Ikiribas person to be elected to elected office in the country.
Wow.
And when she did her affirmation or her declaration that she will, I can't remember there's a specific word which escapes me. She did it in Ikiribas, so that was noted in so that exists now in perpetuity. So when we are long gone,
Yeah.
Victoria Short will have given her inaugural declaration in Ikiribas. It was amazing, and so met the mayor, which was pretty cool. He seems a very very businesslike man, and then spent the weekend just it was lovely. It was Auckland. It was vibrant. It was very multicultural. Went to the Kiwis Mate Maatonga game, which was absolutely fantastic at Eden Park. Did you hear the hymns, Andrew, from where you were?
I went for a run at Riverhead and turned up just as the game was finishing. So sorry, I missed the whole thing.
It was amazing.
But I heard the crowd. It was the loudest crowd from my house that I've heard in a long time. And I tell you what, credit to the crowd because they were quieter coming out of that stadium than any rugby or concert or anything. Past our house, almost no noise. Couldn't believe it. I was expecting, obviously, with all the incredible support the Tongan people have given to their team, I was expecting full noise after the game. But I was so polite. It was nothing. It was amazing.
Well, to be fair to them, it didn't go their way.
Well,
but,
yeah. Yeah.
Maybe they were a bit but no, they were amazing. And an amazing weekend all round or week. But also, I got the chance to take the reins this week and speak to Michael Sutton, who gave a really refreshing take on shorter distance racing. He's a Merrill athlete. He's a 6-time New Zealand rep, and he runs track, trail, and mountains. And we had a good talk. He'd just come off running like a steeplechase, and then was talking about he represented New Zealand at the World Mountain Running Champs. So we talked about that. We talked about mountain running at the Olympics, and just the gap. You sort of have these realizations where you're like, so even my mate here, who's to my left on the screen. So if I took maybe 2 years of absolutely dedicated training, consistency, was absolutely just anthemic in every single thing that I did, I'd probably get into the same Venn diagram, right? It wouldn't be nowhere near as accomplished, but my training and everything, I could get into the same realm, maybe within an hour, maybe something like this. This guy was talking about, they're starting races uphill, and they're doing 250 per K. Like, just actual madness. He ran a 4:28 mile on the weekend, because...
Mate, there's no doubt that those elites are a special breed. You just look at, New York Marathon happened on the weekend, and it starts with an uphill, right? It's straight uphill. And those guys are running a 3:02 as their first kilometre of a marathon, straight uphill. And you've got, I remember seeing, the hills out the back of the Rotorua Marathon. They're pretty decent, right? Mm-hmm. And I remember seeing some of the Stravas from the top guys, and they slowed to a 3:36K going up those hills. 3:36. They're a different level to the rest of us. And like you say, no matter how hard I could dedicate my next 3 years and maybe roll the clock back 15 years as well at the same time, and I still would never get close. And you just accept that. That's cool. That's fine. There are trumpet players that I look at and go, nope, doesn't matter how hard I train, practice or whatever, I know that I just don't, whatever you've got, I don't have it. And that's okay. We can all still have fun.
Absolutely. And it doesn't, I must admit, it really, we were sort of reflecting on how distance isn't, and not to foreshadow the interview or the conversation, but distance doesn't equal probity, right? And it seems like we're getting into this space now where we're getting 250-mile races, and, like you said, Andrew, we were talking about Badwater, kiss 10K plus in a week of your life, goodbye, versus a vertical K where you're still going to throw up, but you're done by lunchtime.
I'd like to try one day just to see.
I really want to
see what it's like, yeah.
Yeah. And, the three things I'm not: light, fast, or efficient.
We must have. Yeah, Te Araha is annoyingly short. It's like 9:60 or something. But in the South Island, there must be a perfect trail that's exactly a K or near enough. We must have one.
Talking about, I think he was talking about Shotover.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
As being the...
South Islanders are screaming right now going, dude, there's 45 of them. What are you talking about? Shut up.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
We'll have some in.
But we actually don't have a dedicated race that I know of, do we, in New Zealand?
Yet.
Yes, that's right, yeah.
If Toby Batchelor's listening, he can set the record straight because that man can run a VK.
Yeah, but look, we've just, what do we say on the show? Doesn't have to be a race or a mountain summit. Might just be a run around the block. So we should get into this.
It's the greatest run ever. It's the greatest run ever.
Greatest run ever, which is the part of the show where we ask you to write in and tell us your greatest run ever. It doesn't have to be a race or a mountain summit. Something that's sung to you for some reason, send them in to us at dirtchurchradio@gmail.com. Now, this was supposed to be read out a couple of weeks ago if Jeff Bezos and his Amazon outage hadn't robbed us of the pleasure of it. So I get the privilege of reading this again from the legend that is Tony Sharp. And he writes, as promised, here's a bit of a stab at my wild GRE review. It's my second go at one of these, having got one on the radar a couple of years ago. 2023 was my annus horribilis. In the space of just 10 months, devastating illnesses took 3 generations of beautiful wahine from my family, my grandmother, then my mother, and finally my far too young and vibrant cousin. At the tail end of it all, Joe also left us. Late in the year, I found myself flying from Christchurch to Wellington to attend a second funeral at Old St. Paul's Cathedral in less than a month. Amidst the grief, there was a sliver of light. The frequent trips to care for Mum gave me limited but precious decompression time on Wellington's incredible trail network. Having grown up there many moons ago, I rediscovered forgotten corners of the capital and revisited old favourites from my youth. Among the chaos, trail running became a grounding force, some decent hill fitness to balance out the emotional weight. The Pioneers edition of the Wild was the perfect tonic leading into a difficult and reflective Christmas. It became my well-being salvation, a way to say goodbye to the year. Like many, I'd been gutted by the Fusion Events implosion in 2022, which derailed the Wild's inaugural run and took down other South Island events with it. But out of the ashes, the 2022 Not the Wild gathering had introduced us to the bewildering array of trails hiding in plain sight behind Arrowtown. What a place! Hard to imagine a better location for a runcation. So when race week finally arrived in December 2023, it was with excitement and relief. Over 650 trail runners descended on Arrowtown for a range of events, from the cheeky 10K, Beast of Beetham, to the longer courses. I signed up for the V5000, 85K with 5,000 metres of tasty vert to drool over, winding through some of the most spectacular hills in the country. Due to forecast gale force winds, the course was pruned slightly to a still daunting 75k and 4,000 metres of vert. No walk in the park. Just towing the line felt like a win. Anything beyond that was a bonus, and race day delivered everything I could have hoped for. Glorious early morning conditions greeted us as we climbed a steady 1,000 metre vertical kilometre to crest what must be the sweetest ridgeline trails in Aotearoa, across Brow Peak and out to the Coronet Peak ski field. This was the stuff of dreams. The wind held off, and life was stripped back to left foot, right foot, and geez, look at those views. A highlight was seeing some of the elites from the shorter courses breeze past with friendly greetings and positive words. You've got to love the camaraderie that lies at the heart of our sport. After Coronet, the real race began. An undulating sidle led to a long steady haul up the seemingly endless Mount Dewar, followed by a quad-killing 1,000 metre descent into the wild Shotover Gorge. It was here the wind finally kicked up, confirming the wisdom of skipping Vanguard Peak. Out there, alone in the gorge, I had time to process the year. There were tears, not from the race, but from the release of a year's worth of sadness, frustration, and immeasurable loss. The modified middle section joined us up with the 65-kilometre runners, which was a neat touch. Familiar faces and new ones to chat with that helped lift the spirits. Somewhere around the 60-kilometre mark, everything clicked. Mind and body aligned, suddenly willing, not weary, my fastest 5K of the day followed, and to this day I've no idea where it came from. Maybe it was the desire to reach the final climb before dark. Maybe it was the magic of being at one with nature and on the finest trail event I've ever experienced. The last few kilometres downhill into the bright lights of Arrowtown were an emotional roller coaster. Somewhere along the way, Terry Davis unexpectedly appeared, offering pizza and coke from his well-laden pack. What a legend. Then the finish line. What an atmosphere, what a buzz, and what a warm embrace from Mel and Sal. There were moments in 2023 when I didn't think I'd make it to the start line. I'm just so grateful I did, and that my family and friends supported me to make it possible. This will be hard to beat as my greatest run ever. Thank you, trail community. Let's keep having each other's backs, in the good times, the not so good times, and everything in between. Cheers, Tony Sharp. Thank you, Tony. That was amazing. The rest of you, please send them in. We're getting a steady trickle. I'm anticipating a bumper crop over summer as people go out and get stoked on their training runs and stuff. But yeah, keep sending them in. We love reading them out, and people love reading them on the website too. Right. Anyone got anything else to crack on with? Any news, Andrew? You're the repository of all.
Just want to say happy summer. It feels like summer. You know, like, let's go. Let's get out on those trails. Like I did my last night evening run, Riverhead, finished at 7:30, and the sun was still in the sky, and I remember thinking, this is brilliant. Actually, being a Grinch, I hate summer during the middle of the day. Hate it. But the best part about summer is the evenings, man. Woo, so good. But yeah, I've got no time for the heat. Sorry, that was a negative to finish on. Love it, love it. Yeah. Enjoy your summer running.
You know what the best thing is? A summer run where you finish with a swim, and that's where Blue Lake on a hot day, Lake Tikitapu, is one of my favourite summer runs because you just can dive in afterwards and you know you're going to get the chance to cool down.
Yeah, Lake Sandringham. Oh, no, wait. No, we don't. No, that's right.
Lake Riverhead. I've actually got the river down there.
You
just down
do?
the road.
Yeah.
But I'm always scared of sharks because it is tidal. And you get dolphins in there.
Wow.
You
You get seals in there.
Oh, you
so
get
you're gonna
dolphin skulls in there?
Yeah, dolphin skulls under the house, but you do get dolphins. But yeah, I remember the first time I went in Lake Tikitapu. I'd been for this epic single speed ride and was just smoked. I'd gone from Blue Lake and gone up, up through Hill Road and all up around and back and down, and the kids, Rebecca and the kids were away for the weekend, and I jumped in that lake and I couldn't believe how hot the weather was and how freezing cold the water was. I remember it just took my breath away, but absolutely fantastic. But look, we are rabbiting on, and speaking of heat, this is someone who absolutely brings the heat, so please enjoy my conversation with Merrill athlete and all-round good sort, Michael Sutton. All right, Michael Sutton, welcome to Dirt Church Radio. How you doing, man?
Oh, good, thanks. Yeah.
Where are you in the world?
In Papamoa at the moment. Just at home. Yeah.
Not really known for its mountainous terrain, but it's great to have you on the show, and it's been a really long time coming, so I do appreciate that. And do you want to let the listeners know what you've been up to this year?
Yep. So I guess working back, we started the year on the track, and then won the 3K Steeples there, and then moved basically into a sort of mountain season and racing New Zealand champs, qualified for the world champs, which was great, and then and raced at Tarawera, raced at a whole heck of a lot of European races, raced at the Mount here as well, and so there's been a fair bit going on. Oh, and then ultimately the world champs at Canfranc just over a month now ago.
It's quite the change in discipline, isn't it? A steeplechase, which is one of the most sort of storied track events in sport, and then going to mountain running. I just wanted to touch on, what was your first taste of sport?
Yeah, there's a couple of things. So I guess it was cricket and football, I guess, as a kid, and then didn't quite have the coordination for those sports. So then Dad sort of took me along and we started running to school, and then sort of built up from there really into cross country, and took a couple of years off while I was at uni, sort of from more of the serious running, and then sort of got back into things about 5 or 6 years ago now, and sort of mountain and trail, and also cross country, road, track, the whole lot. Yeah.
What was it that attracts you to the track?
I don't know, being good enough and thinking that you can still win national titles and like the steeples, and also just ran a 30 flat in the 10 at the start of the year, which I was pretty happy with, but I still want to keep pushing that down a little bit faster. But yeah.
If we're thinking, steeplechase, obviously, and there's a lot of obviouses in this discussion, because we're going to talk about mountain running, and the main sort of difficulty or feature is in the name, and such as like steeplechase. But this is a traditional ultramarathon podcast. What, apart from the fact that you're jumping over stuff, what are the things that you need to consider, like when you're racing steeplechase?
I guess the big thing is just getting your timing right. There's a whole heck of a lot of things, but mainly just getting over those. How many jumps are there? There's sort of 5 jumps over 7 laps, so 35 jumps, and that's where like your mountain strength and your base kind of gets you through it, I guess. I remember racing, the last couple of times that I've won the race, it's basically been on that last water jump. Everyone else is sort of tying up, and I'm just still feeling pretty strong, which I think is that mountain base. Whereas previously, before I sort of started in the mountains, I was sort of the guy tying up by those last couple of laps, and everyone else was sort of flying off it. And so it really changed the dynamic for me as well. Like I was sort of struggling to, be still moving well at the end of those last 2, to suddenly being, you're the guy that's still moving, and everyone else is, really struggling with it. So, yeah.
So 7 laps, 400 metre track, that's 2.8k. Even my shoddy maths can work that out. What time? And with the steeples, how high are they?
914 millimetres, so just under a metre So yeah, they're
Right.
pretty high and pretty unmovable if you make a mistake.
I think you're sandbagging when you said you weren't coordinated enough for cricket, but yet you can tear around a track and jump over meter high obstacles. And what's your time for that?
9 minutes 3 was my PB that we did at the start of the year, so yeah, it was pretty handy. Yeah.
That's incredible. I think you might be the first steeple chaser that we've ever had on Dirt Church Radio. So welcome. But
that kind of surprised me a little bit because mountains and steeple is a bit of a combo that you do see a little bit. Like people have started off on the steeple, move into the mountains, but maybe not all the way up to that sort of ultra and long kind of trail stuff.
Well, I mean, keeping with the obvious and without being too obvious, in terms of, people understand ultra running, they understand trail running, they understand races like Ultra Trail Mont Blanc or even something like Tour de Jeanne or the shorter distances at UTMB, Mount Fuji. All those things have mounts in the names, even something like Ultra Trail Australia where there's a hell of a lot of elevation change. But what sets mountain running apart from quote unquote like regular trail or ultramarathon running?
I think it's a couple of things. So I think it's definitely the gradient. There's quite stringent things around gradient. So it's 5% is kind of the minimum for at least change in elevation over a certain distance. So that's a big one. It's generally shorter. So there's normally a requirement that you don't carry gear unless it's like extreme conditions up on the mountain. What are the other big ones? Probably, yeah, again, that distance and time is kind of under a sort of sub-marathon distance. And yeah, I mean, those are really the big sort of main ones. Whereas I guess your ultras and your trail races sort of push out a bit longer. There's a bit of crossover in what's called a long mountain, so that starts to get into sort of similar to what your short trail is. So that's a bit of a discussion we're having at the moment as well as to whether where long mountain kind of sits versus short trail. Like Sears and Owl is kind of a World Cup race that you might be familiar with. That's sort of in that shorter trail kind of world of things. Yeah, but also it's a mountain race. Yeah.
Right, so that's in the Venn diagram. That's both, and it escapes me at the moment. The more detail orientated people will be shocked with that. But what is the distance of Sears Nell?
I think it's 27, but it's 2,000 up and about 1,200 down. And the ups are really steep and the downs are really steep, and then it traverses quite a lot. So I haven't actually run that one as yet, but I did camera run it last year, and it was quite an eye-opening experience doing that with all the crowds and sort of the excitement around that.
So you're saying you camera run it, so you were one of the runners who are following the leaders? Yeah,
so I did that for the World Cup, and I was basically following all the top guys, so Killian and Remy Bonnet and Patrick and Caitlin Field, obviously New Zealander. She was top 10 there, so yeah, that was exciting as well.
And what sort of gear have you got?
Just had a little GoPro on a little stick, and I was off and almost took a little tumble, and I was a bit worried following behind some of the women, and they sort of packed up, and I wasn't focusing 100% nearly stacked it there. So it was.
I think the single most nerve-wracking thing I ever did was cruise Sam McCutcheon at Tarawera one year, and had to do the run at Outlet with him for about, 50, 60 metres, and I was fair packing myself that I was going to trip over or drop his bottles. I can't imagine what it's like following someone like Killian Jornet with a GoPro. What are you thinking during that?
I was actually thinking they were running a bit slower than what I thought they would be at that point, but it was because they'd obviously just done probably nearly 2,000 metres of climbing, and they weren't actually really pushing it. They were probably sort of collecting themselves a little bit for the big traverse bit, and then obviously the big downhill that they had to do where they were pumping sort of 250 something on this downhill, like coming to the finish as well. So they were sort of just sort of holding in there and just sort of holding their places a bit, I think.
And you mentioned before there's a requirement not to carry gear unless it's what's the is there a cutoff for when they say, no, you need to take a rain jacket with you or some nutrition?
Yeah.
What is that?
So that happened actually at the World Champs this year in the uphill race. They, I don't think it snowed on the top, but it had been snowing on the top of the mountain. So they basically required everyone took a seam sealed jacket and a little pouch or pack or whatever they wanted to take up, just so they had that protection if it really got bad and you somehow ended up off the side of the mountain somewhere. You needed to have that kind of warmth and but normally it's not required. The big one there is poles. Like normally World Cup races don't have poles. It's probably one of the big differences. So even if you're running quite a steep uphill race, they don't run with poles. They just run your standard 2 legs. That's it, yeah.
And so you've been in Europe. What does the season look like on the World Mountain Running Tour?
I guess it kind of moves around. So this year we sort of started off in China, which was a new one where we that was basically the start of the season for me. Then moved on to France, basically packed in, found a nice little spot in near the border with Switzerland with some good mountains, and then went and raced the World Cup race there. Then came across and raced an uphill in Italy, and then raced a few sort of support races that Merrill sponsored, and then came in and raced the World Champs, and that was pretty much the season this year. It's kind of an interesting one. You're sort of balancing up with World Cup. It's obviously really great support, but then the level of the field sometimes means that it's really sort of pretty tough going sometimes. Like you race, last 2 years I've raced the Italian mountain running champs, and you very quickly learn where you are in the pecking order going over to Italy and racing all their top guys. But yeah, it's...
So, what we've been able to learn about what mountain running is currently is that you have to be super, super fast if you want to compete. So break that down for us. What are we talking about? Everyone makes this big thing about the start of Ultra Trail Mont Blanc, right? And they say that the start of the pack, that first 5K, you're throwing elbows and it's faster than anyone could imagine. But you mentioned before sort of 2-minute 50 pace downhill at Sierras now. What's the distance and sort of what's the winner doing the Italian mountain running champs in?
I wouldn't necessarily know exactly what the winner did there.
Or ballpark figure.
Yeah, well, it was 7Ks and like 1,000 meters up. So I think they did maybe 38 or something for that. But it's hard to really compare because terrains and things make such a big difference. The Italians run on all this river stone stuff, and that also makes it quite hard coming from New Zealand, where it's much more similar to running in France or Switzerland, where there's a lot more sort of dirt type trails and a lot more sort of forest type trails and full drive road. And you go to Italy and it's all stone stuff that you're sliding around on. And these Italian guys are flying past. You're like, how are they gripping onto the trail? I guess it kind of starts off like World Champs. We started off probably 2:55 maybe for the first K. Then you'd sort of turn up onto the track, and then the top guys are probably like 3-minute gapping it, and you're probably 3:20, and then then you come down, and then you're kind of spending the rest of the race sort of trying to hold on for dear life, pretty much.
Wow, that's incredible. That's you mentioned when we were sort of chatting about this and setting this up that you'd had talking about that comparison between, and I use scare quotes, trail and ultramarathon running, the progression of mountain running, and you'd spoken to John O'Wyatt, who's been on Dirt Church Radio before. He's an absolute legend of the sport. What was his take on sort of the progression of the sport and where things stand?
Well, I guess his big take at the moment is that it's a bit what's the word, fragmented. So obviously you've got so many different series out there. People are a little bit confused. They know the term trail, but they don't know too much else. So you've got World Mountain Running, then you've got Golden Trails, Sky Runner Series, you've got UTMB, you've got I think there's another the Trail 100 Series or something. So there's all these different things. His view, I think now basically is that as the sport looks to say the Olympics, is that it all needs to come together kind of under one brand umbrella, and that's the trail umbrella. That's where UTMB, Solomon, all these big brands, Merrill, all these huge brands have invested all their money and their energy behind. And I guess that's his view, is that it's all trail, and it's mountain is a shorter version of the trail. Then there's kind of like that, what's currently called the short trail in the middle somewhere, and then there's the longer trail at the end with like your 100 mile, your 100 Ks, all that kind of fun stuff.
It's incredible, isn't it? There's these marketing terms. I mean, who would have ever thought we'd be in a position where people are talking about like marathon and below is sub-ultra?
I think social media has a little bit to do with it as well. I think that to get attention, increasingly people move to those further and further edges, whereas previously maybe a marathon would have been enough, and then it's 100K would have been enough, and then it's 100 miles now the thing. And so it kind of, I guess naturally people get the attention from the most extreme thing. If it's not different, then it sort of doesn't stand out. It's like, oh, well, there was 100,000 people in New Zealand ran a marathon last year, so it doesn't stand out if you just run a marathon where you're just one of those other 100,000 people that went did it or whatever, or 50,000 or however many.
Do you think that's a New Zealand thing? Like we always self-deprecate. Like if there was another, we always talk about like at say Tarawera, and I use that just for an example. If someone was running the 21, someone was running the 50, someone was running the 100, and someone was running the 100 mile, you'd have the 21, the 50, and the 100K runner saying, I'm just running my distance. And the 100 mile runner would turn around and say, I'm doing the 100 miles, but I'm really not that good. I think it's quite a sad indictment, and the Aussies are like, I don't know, they do an 11K race and they've got their medal on for 2 days because they're just stoked that they've done it. And rightfully so, because it's a huge achievement, right?
I think there is a bit of that. I think coming back to New Zealand, it's a bit like we're kind of putting ourselves down a bit, and then it's kind of probably self-limiting what we can do in running or technology or whatever other fields. It's kind of limiting us a little bit. We're still like, we're just New Zealand, and so all the bright people and the exciting people are all overseas, and we're kind of sort of sitting here going, it's not really going too well at the moment. Can we get more of that sort of confidence, and then once we have that confidence, we can sort of build on it and do some exciting things. Yeah.
Present company excluded, of course. And it's like that thing. I remember doing a parkrun once, and I had a buff on from Tarawera 100, and a dude who finished ahead of me, of course he did, had a Boston Marathon singlet on, and he saw my wristband. He saw my buff. He's like, "Oh my God, I can't believe you did that!" And I saw his T-shirt, and we had this sort of Spider-Man moment. We were just sort of pointing at each other, saying, "No, that sounds harder." But running you said you're running sub 3 minute Ks, the first part of a mountain championship. That sounds super difficult. What's that feel like?
I think I'm at the fitness level now where that's not too bad. It's probably just in the legs in the last few Ks it can kind of go a bit wrong and be a bit tough. We did that I think national mountains this year. I think we opened up with like a 2:45 gap or something ridiculous. We had Toby and who's the national 10K champion, and myself sort of went off, and we were just trying to run the legs off some of these stronger guys like John Jackson and some of these guys that were sort of hanging back a bit. I think it's mainly just at the end. I know world champs are really struggled because I'd had COVID sort of 2 weeks before, so I think the legs just weren't quite where they should have been, or I would have liked them to be. But it's racing sometimes, unfortunately.
How do you balance because I'm presuming you talked about the Italian guys who are running on essentially, like you said, Riverstone or shale. How do you train for technicality whilst keeping up your speed?
I guess it's a hard one. It's sort of very regional as to what terrains you're on. So you might come into Italy a week or 2 weeks before, and that's sort of the first time in a year that you've kind of experienced that terrain. I guess I'm not really too focused on it, I guess, because you kind of just got to roll with whatever's in front of you pretty much. It is kind of a hard one. You're not, I guess if I specifically thought a race was going to be really technical, I might find that terrain and try and run some hard stuff. I remember talking to Chris Morrissey about the goat, and I was like, how do you guys run so fast downhill on these, like the shale stuff on Ruapehu? And he's like, oh, we just turn up and just go hard pretty much. He's like, there's not much training for it, because if you trained on that and ran hard on it all the time, you'd just get injured and you wouldn't probably be here. So it's a tough one sometimes.
One of the things I wanted to talk to you about, because we see the proliferation of these ultra marathons, and whether they be grassroots or larger events, they're intensely popular, but they're also relatively safe. You have to have some pretty bad luck if you're getting mechanically hurt in something like, I don't know, again, something like Topol Ultra or something like that. What's the injury rate like? Because I mean, imagine flying over the top of a mountain. The risk, perhaps, is it elevated?
Yeah, I think feet and ankles seem to be a big one. I think there's not many mountain shorter trail type guys that I don't know that haven't had sort of feet and ankle issues. Definitely the mountain running, they try to make it a little bit less technical, but with potentially some technical elements. This year, there's been a couple this year that have been quite gnarly. I was running King of the Mountain this year, and I got to the top, came over the top, and I was winning by about a minute and 20. And then I got to the stairs at the bottom, and suddenly there was a guy like right behind me in this sort of real short, even by mountain standards, quite short 4Ks, and he was right behind me, and then he was in road shoes, and he just slid and broke his leg there. And then there was another one, and I ran like a sky running race in France, just a short one that the younger guys ran, and one of the top Belgian trail runner basically broke his foot in one of that one, because a lot of the drops, they just go straight down, and particularly in sky running, they just go straight down, and there's not that much of a thought towards and actually making it like a runnable terrain, whereas the World Cup is more about making it a bit of a runnable terrain. And like even when we were in China, Jono was making a few adjustments to the course as we were there, saying, oh, that bit should be a bit more runnable, and maybe we'll take that little bit out, and just trying to make it like, it's still tough, but it's not in a way that it's not runnable, or it's not dropping down to things too much.
Sounds like it's almost in that fell running tradition, doesn't it? Like get to the top,
you definitely
get
see
back
part
down
of
to the bottom.
it. You definitely see part of that. I ran a race in Switzerland this year, and I was running against this guy that was a fell runner, and he was quite far, not modestly far back at the top, and then suddenly we started going down, and we'd sort of dropped through some of these little side trails and stuff, and then suddenly he's right up on me, and then he's past me, and then as it sort of flattened out towards the end, I managed to sort of pick him back up again and beat him. But there's definitely some real cannonball type runs, I guess I'd say, where they just fly down the downhills, and they're sort of notable. But then also on the flip side, they're sort of taking more risks, and they do seem to get injured a bit more often than people that are a bit more balanced and a bit more.
Well, I mean, we've all seen those cheese rolling videos, haven't we? That's they're chasing the cheese down the hill. And
That's old mate who's been on this podcast for Ryan Carr. I think he was saying he's got to do a cheese roll at some point before he.
Yeah. I mean, I could see Ryan do it. He is one person who has been on this podcast who I could see attempting and surviving one of those competitive cheese rolling races. Speaking of, again, coming back to competition, you've represented New Zealand 6 times. What's that like?
It's pretty amazing, really, being in the team. I think is the big thing. Like, you're just around so many cool people. Like in an individual sport, a lot of the time you're out training by yourself and you're going off to these races, and you're in a race where there's in France and everyone speaks French, or in Italy and everyone speaks Italian or whatever, and you feel sort of a bit alone. And then suddenly you go into like these big environments and they've got all these sort of amazing athletes that are around you and sort of got the same, I guess, local experience and experience of the local stuff, and also having raced some big races. And yeah, it's just amazing, really. That, for me, that's the big part of it. Like, definitely the first time I did it at the senior level, it was quite like an emotional thing. And you're like, wow, I've actually spent all this time working up to this and I've actually made it. And then, like, yeah, the subsequent times, it was just really about that kind of social side and that fun side of being around it all. And, yeah. And seeing other people experience it for the first time is really, really cool as well.
Aside from, I mean, the representing New Zealand, it's an amateur endeavour. It's an elite endeavour, but it's an amateur endeavour. What's, in terms of sort of popularity and prize money, what's it like if you were to be like professionally running a world trail series or a world mountain running series? Sorry, is there a difference between something like the World Mountain Running Association and say something like Golden Trail?
Yeah, I think the prize money generally is less, but yeah, it is a World Mountain Running is technically a non-for-profit, so I guess they have different views on things. So maybe Golden Trail, which is purely more sort of commercial side. The top prize money in World Cup is really good, but yes, it's pretty hard to get into those kind of echelons now, and it has been really disappointing as well, seeing some of the I guess the doping side at that really high level as well, with Stian and Joylene this year as well, which has been a bit disappointing. I think the real stuff I like there is definitely the support you get, like with accommodation, travel, that kind of stuff. That's been where it's at least for me personally, that's where it's been really, really great. Yeah.
On that, I mean, that's an unfortunate facet of the sport, isn't it? And it's something that no matter how many press releases companies release or how many times we decry it, people will find a way to cheat, or systems will encourage, people to cheat. What do you think we need to do going forward as a sport? I mean, as an umbrella, to kind of distance ourselves from that stuff.
It's a really tough issue. I mean, I talked to my coach about it, and he ran road races in the 80s, and he said it was pretty prevalent then, and you would have thought if there was an easy solution that someone would have come up with it by now, but it's complicated, and I think it speaks to, I guess, as well, economic disparities as well outside of the sport are a big part of it that people I don't think barely ever talk about, is that you've got athletes coming in, particularly from East Africa, with not a hell of a lot of much, and they have to come to win. If they don't win, they go home and their life looks very, very different. So there's issues there, and there's also issues, I guess, around education as well a little bit. Like, if you're doing these things, how long are you going to live for if you're just randomly testing your body with a whole bunch of things that aren't really potentially that good for you? And I think, yeah, it is just, I guess, a natural, unfortunate part of human psyche, I guess, is that if you've got a competition, some people are going to want to cheat to get to those rewards, and those rewards are so great at the top as well. I think one thing I've kind of pushed for a little bit is that maybe the rewards need to be balanced out a bit more. Like, if you're giving 5,000 euros to the first guy and then you're only giving 100 euros to the 10th guy, you're creating a real incentive for people to do whatever it takes to get to that first position, and you're not really thinking about what the actual incentives you're building up are, or what you're actually doing. Yeah.
That's a really good point, and not suggesting. That's such a good point, and it's not suggesting that everyone gets a participation certificate. But you're right. If the gap between I don't know, first and, like you say, 10th was not so great, maybe that would encourage. I mean, people are still going to race because you line a bunch of fast people up on a start line and you're going to want to, we're going to go out after each other. But yeah, maybe that is something to think about. I also think your point on, Darren and Finn made it, in that if you're a Kenyan runner and you come and say you win Berlin, I mean, I'm not quoting exactly, but that's a lot of money for prize. That's a lot for first place at Berlin, say. I mean, that's generational. That's generational wealth you've just got. I'm not surprised people are having a tilt.
Yeah, it's tough one in that regard. Yeah.
So, what was the world? Talk me through the world champs. What was your journey to qualifying? Was it an easy one?
Yeah, so it wasn't actually that. For the race, I ended up doing the classic. I came off the plane from Milan on Thursday afternoon, I think it was, and raced Sunday in the New Zealand Champs. So it was a bit of a rough one. I think I wasn't really sure if it was daytime or nighttime, and I sort of got pushed out there onto the start line, and then Eric and a guy Joe Lynch, who's top orienteer, sort of tore off, and I was sort of umming and ahhing whether I sort of hung with them or hung back a little bit, and then sort of came in and got third there, and so that was the classic, and then also qualified for the uphill in April, and I guess against where did we race that? We raced that up the Cadrone, the ski road there. Did sort of 12 Ks, 1,000. We just sort of took off and got second there. So yeah, those are the two main qualifying races, and then you pretty much picked in the team and go off. And I was hoping to be able to race both, obviously, and then didn't really work out that way, unfortunately, with some of the issues in the end.
So take a step back for me. You say the classic and the uphill, and I'm guessing, obviously, Captain Obvious, the uphill, you're mainly running uphill. But what does in terms of distance and elevation, what's a classic?
So classic, I guess, is anywhere up to about probably 20, 25 Ks with, as I said, like a minimum of sort of 5% grade change. That's something that some people kind of misunderstand about the rules, is they go, oh, that doesn't have 500 metres of elevation and 10 kilometres. And it's like, yeah, well, the rule says up and down. So, yeah, it could be sort of down the lower end, it could be 10 Ks and 250 up and down. At the higher end, it could be up to about 15%, I think. So it could be up to sort of 750 up and down over 10. That's sort of generally the kind of standard. Like I think World Champs this year was 13 and about 750 up and down. So that kind of gives you some idea of what the distance in the up and down is, and that's sort of fairly standard. I think previous World Champs were about 14 and 600 or 700 as well.
So talk me through it. What's the atmosphere at the World Mountain Running Champs like?
Yeah, it was a bit weird this year, to be honest. We didn't really get much of the atmosphere. The Kiwi team was off in a place called Baaaaack, which is 30 Ks away from Canfranc, where the champs actually was being held. So we were sort of on like this little island in the middle of nowhere with a handful of other teams like Argentina and Cuba and Uganda, and we it wasn't quite the atmosphere, I think, of previous World Champs. And then so suddenly you get thrown into it at the actual start line of the race, and then suddenly it's all on, everyone's sort of packing in. And then once you're there, it's just amazing with all the sort of like funnels that sort of come in. You sort of come down out from the hills and back in towards town, and then there's just millions of people just sort of all sort of cheering and got the bells and all that kind of stuff going on. Yeah.
And in terms of why do you think you're so far out of where the race was? What was that? Just a scheduling issue, or?
I think they underestimated the size of the task of the event. Like my view is now I think it's pretty close to the second largest individual sport world championships, and they just thought it was going to be like I don't know, a few people just sort of down at the back, and they organise a race there every year called Can Frank, and I think they didn't quite get the scale of what was going to be required, and we'd been there previous year, and it was like, really, this is where it's going to be. There's like 1,000 people live here and a few ski huts, and so even the main sort of people that were all housed 15 k's down the road, and they had bus issues as well. So there was only 2 buses a day that went from our accommodation to the main start-finish area, which was interesting in itself. On the race day, we got specifically told all throughout the event, do not go onto this bus unless you were going to a race. And these people we got halfway to the race and they said, oh, we want to go to Haka, which is back the other way. And then the bus driver just turned around and we're all like, no, we're going to the race. Like, we've got to start in an hour and a half or 2 hours. Like, we're not... And there's just some craziness like that you kind of come to expect sometimes, that different strange things happen, I guess, at those bigger events. But yeah,
it's funny, isn't it? That's something that undergirds, we've spoken to so many race directors or people who've had experiences at such a multitude of events, and from the biggest to the smallest, from the most polished to the grassroots, the one, the lowest common denominator is human beings, and human beings will generally act chaotic in any situation that you put them in. It's unavoidable. That must have been so nerve-wracking. You're in the Pyrenees, you're heading to this race, and suddenly you're going the other way. Was the bus driver amenable to turning back around?
Yeah, well, because the problem is that we all spoke English, and we're like, no, and the bus driver speaks Spanish, and the people that were speaking to him were speaking to him in Spanish, and they're like, oh, we go round now, and he's like, oh, yes, yep. And we're all like, no. And then, so he took the advice of the people speaking Spanish, even though we're all told, do not go on this bus unless you want to go to the start. And it was weird as well, we'd been through the town. They didn't say anything when we went through the town. They only said it once we'd gone halfway to the start. So it was a bit of a strange situation, really.
Do you think mountain running has a place in the wider trail running community? Like, what would attract someone like me, who's a very mid-pack runner, middle age, all that, to something like mountain running?
I guess it's something's a bit, I don't know, there's definitely a challenge to it. Like, just because your ultra might be 100 miles, there's very much a different challenge to, say, doing a vertical where it's like 3 or 4 kilometres and 1,000 metres, and you might be, I guess, finding that you're testing out different things and different parts about yourself that's more your ability to just keep pushing through it, like in a very much shorter distance. I guess definitely they do attract different people, and that's kind of some of the discussions we're having now, as some athletes have kind of moved through from mountains into trail. How do we, I guess, distinguish mountains as its own thing, or do we want to distinguish it as its own thing, or does it just sit on like a big continuum or big spectrum of all these events, and this is like the short stuff, and then 100 miles is the long stuff that you gradually progress to as you get older or whatever. But it is fascinating as well. Like, you go to Italy and there's all these older Italians that are really strong at running up hills. Like, you go, oh, well, they're not that fast on a flat, they won't do much, and then suddenly you put them on a very steep hill, and they've been doing this their whole life, just walking up and down hills in their little village, and they're very, very strong, and they'll cut you down if you don't give them the respect that they deserve, and get them, put the training in that's going to the specific training that's going to beat them. Yeah.
Look, I'm absolutely here for it. I think we get 100% wrapped around the axle in terms of distance equals probity, and now we're getting into the realm of 200-mile races, backyards, and no shade on anyone who wants. I mean, I did a backyard. It was heaps of fun. No shade on anyone who wants to do that. But there's something intensely appealing about being able to go out and, say, be done in a morning, or go home and mow the
Yeah,
lawn.
you can have your whole weekend back. You don't
Yeah,
need to.
absolutely. And that notion as well, that it feels like it's got a lot more, maybe it's like comparing rugby league and rugby union, it feels like it's a little bit more egalitarian if you're thinking like from a fell running perspective, where it was everyone goes to the village hall, runs to the top of the hill, comes back down, has a cup of tea and a pint at the pub, versus you and your Italian guy who's been living in the village all his life. It feels like it's a lot more, in some ways, inclusive.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I love about it, is the part of what I love about it is the social side as well. Like, I think there's something to the fact that there's so much variety in some of the courses and stuff as well, that you're not always going to be, like in a 1500, you can pretty much pick, say, the top 3 guys every week and say, those 3 guys are going to be with mountain running, the different courses, the terrains, the grade and stuff means that it really gets mixed up quite a lot. And so you get better at losing somewhat as well, and you get better at being more communal and more social, because you know that just because you were this position one week, you might be a better position next week, then you might get thrown out the back of the week after, and you get better at sort of being able to cheer on your opposition as well a bit, and being able to kind of be happy that they did well even if you didn't do well, and things that I don't think you learn as much in track, definitely. Not too sure about ultra side of it, how that all kind of breaks down. And it's interesting as well, I had a discussion with Weston a few weeks back, and he was basically saying he got sucked into that longer distance stuff, and he was like, I don't really know why I got sucked into it. All my sort of friends were doing it, but it wasn't what I wanted to do. I didn't want to do 180. I want to run 30 or 40, and I think that's where he sees hopefully his future, and he's sort of carving out his own niche and own sort of area there. So, yeah.
We talked about ultra running at the Olympics, and I, for one, want to see the whole ultra running experience, like bad aid stations, people being sick, people having a bummer time and spending an hour or whatever. And I don't think that that's going to happen. But you've mentioned in some of the notes that you sent me that you'd really like to see mountain running at the Olympics. What would it take for that to happen?
It's quite interesting. So I'm on the Athletes Commission for World Mountain Running, and so we have a little bit of an input into what that's potentially looking like, along with ITRA, IAU, so ITRA, the Trail Running Association, IAU, the Ultra Runners Association, and it's going to be, I don't think it's quite, unfortunately or unfortunately, I don't think it's quite going to be the broad, expansive, maybe some of the inclusive side of the sport that we currently see with the World Champs, because there's so many constraints. There's accommodation, there's having a group of athletes that are on the drug testing pool. There's going to be a lot of minutiae that's going to mean that there's going to be quite a small selective group of athletes and a small selective group of events that if something does go on there, that will go in there. And part of the IOC and the World Athletics is, mandate is that they have to keep it like that because of the resourcing that gets put on the host city, and some of that's probably going to mean that the World Champs in many respects may keep that kind of big tent type approach, and that it actually may be a lot more of a spectacle, at least from what a lot of people like out of the sport, and the Olympics may just be a bit of a cut down version of that, I guess. And we don't really know what distances and what formats are going to be chosen, because it is such a cut down version. Is it going to be something that's going to be really short? Is it going to be something in the middle that kind of no one's happy with, but it's kind of the compromise solution? That's what's happened in skimo. It's suddenly like I think events that normally took place over like an hour or 2 hours are now being cut down into like 10 or 15 minutes for TV purposes, and it will be different to what I think people are maybe expecting. And it's good in some ways, but maybe not so good in other ways.
It's the thing I compare it to is like cross-country mountain biking, how they have, and like you said, with where there has to be a 5% terrain change, they have to have a rock garden, they have to have so many drops, they have to have this much climb. It'll be really interesting to see. I'd watch a VK at the Olympics. That would be rad.
Well, that's kind of what they've gone to for skimo. So if you watch Milan Cortina, which will be in February, I think, there'll be a skimo, and the top uphill guy from the World Champs is probably looking like he'll be the odds-on favourite to win the skimo there as well. So it'll be interesting.
That will be interesting. And for those who don't celebrate, skimo is something that's talked about in, hushed tones. Kilian Jornet, Anton Krupicka, two people who are kind of renowned for it. What's skimo?
Well, my understanding of it is that they go up obviously in their skis, they ski a little bit, or cross-country ski a little bit up, then they take the skis off, do a bit of running, put the skis back on, do a bit more of cross-country skiing, and then I don't know how many transitions they do, then maybe take them, I don't know, they either put them back on or take them back off again and then turn around and ski back down to the bottom and all that. I think it's normally like an hour or something in like a big competitions, but now it's kind of been shortened down for the Olympics to about 10 minutes, I think, or 15 minutes, kind of little burst of it, yeah. And so they only go up 200 or 300 metres or something and come down, yeah.
Sounds absolutely horrendous. And they've got the skins on the skis, eh? That's the thing, so they can actually get up the hill and have to take it off, and it's one of those insanely...
Like, I was training in Italy for the one of the World Cup races, and I was running with Lara. So she's qualified, I think, for the Olympics for Australia to do skimo. So she was pretty excited about that whole opportunity. And
wow, one of those intensely technical alpine sports. That's Hey, I mean, is a mountain running series something we need here in Aotearoa?
Well, I think so. I think so. I guess what we're working on at the moment is looking at pulling some races together, having a project for those elite athletes to kind of have something to stick their teeth into after sort of racing at the World Champs, and maybe some of the more local guys. I really want what we're looking for with that as well is trying to build some of the culture I think that maybe is missing a little bit in New Zealand that exists around supporting the athletes. Like in Europe, it's just amazing, like the number of times someone will just offer, like particularly races, will just offer to support you with accommodation, with food, whatever, and even sometimes the races are sort of more coming to you with opportunities, and I think we need a bit more of that in New Zealand, whereas it's too easy to just go push the athletes to one side, particularly elite athletes to one side, and kind of ignore what they kind of bring to the event. So I think it'd be good to bring a bit of that kind of culture back to New Zealand, and a bit more of that kind of community culture as well, and giving back a little bit, yeah.
Yeah. At the end of the day, the fastest person wins the race, and we all know that, I've stood on many a finish line with doing commentary and stuff like that, and you know that when a big name or someone who's charismatic or comes across that finish line, it does add something. It's a special sauce, doesn't it? People go absolutely bananas, and it does add something almost undefinable to the event.
Well, trial's a bit different as well, but I feel like something that maybe gets sort of got missed is that that first person across the line is kind of a bit of a benchmark as well. It's not like track where you know what time should be run based on history and records and all that sort of stuff. It's like the conditions on the day can be very different. The trail was maybe only been used a handful of times. So that person that's coming across, when you and your mates come down, I don't know, like some places further down the track, you're kind of comparing yourself to your mates, but you're also comparing yourself to that first guy as well, because, or girl or whatever, because they're doing these kind of crazy things, and they're actually setting the benchmark a little bit as well.
Where would you be looking? I mean, I can hear the eye rolls of people who live in the South Island already, like, oh, well, it would be, purely based down at the South Island. Would you be looking to spread it all across the Motu?
We've got 4 North Island races and 4 South Island races. I don't know if I'm really in a position to be putting out quite yet who they are, but they're
we can talk about it after.
They're all the big. I basically took a list through and looked at what the big races were. What are the ones that people are showing up for? Tried to get a bit of a mix of different types of events so that there'll be some steeper, some more sort of rolling, more sort of cross-country type stuff. And get ones that the elite athletes have kind of had a bit of a say on. It kind of, it flows through from a couple of different discussions. I'd had one with Toby Batchelor, who's one of the top mountain guys. He's, I think he's from Rootburn before, and me and him had a bit of a discussion about what we thought the big races in New Zealand were for the shorter formats. And then I've done a little bit of work with Athletics New Zealand as well, looking at mountain and trail and trying to push it to them and say, hey, look, guys, these are some of the more interesting races, and there's a lot more participation now in trail as well that I don't think they really appreciated that there's 70,000 entries in trail now in New Zealand and there's 30,000 in track and field, and they're going, oh, track and fields, that's the big one, that's what everyone's interested in. Well, I'm going, well, hang on a minute, there's more entries and more people are showing up for the trail, so is it the big one? Is it what everyone's interested in?
I think it does come back to that thing that you spoke about, though. Hey, like how in the finals of a 1,500 meters, it's exactly right. Every single, it's like you made that Olympic point as well. Everyone's reached a certain standard, and within trail and ultramarathon, or not even ultramarathon, within trail running, there's a lot more of a wider, you meet the cutoffs. Some are more stringent, some aren't. And if you can fall within those wider margins, you're good to go. And it's in that sense, that is really inclusive. There's other barriers to entry, like we're talking about the cost of entries, the amount of gear, all that sort of stuff. But it's a sleeping giant, all right.
Yeah, well, that is one of the things, trying to bring the cost down a little bit for the elite athletes as well. It was a bit sad going to Crater Rim this year, and you talk to probably 2 or 3 different people, and they say, well, the reason we're not racing this year is just cost. We just can't afford it. If you're a student, if you don't have a lot, you just can't afford to go. So if we can create a bit of a series, hopefully we can bring the overall cost down a little bit, and that's part of it anyway. Yeah.
I guess if you're only wearing a singlet and shorts, and that's the sort of truism, isn't it? It's that fallacy that we all fall into, that running's just putting on a pair of shoes and heading out the door, and we all know that it's. Yeah. I mean, yes, it is, and at the same time, absolutely no, it's not.
Well, I have to get a little plug in there for Merrill, because that was such a big thing for me, was getting a deal with them, because you just go through so many pairs of shoes as an elite level athlete, and just even having that little bit of support is just fantastic. And I really thank them for taking a chance on me. So it's great.
Oh, look, I think even someone who is a very a mediocre amateur athlete, that you burn through shoes. And I remember that, when you start running trails and then you realize that running on the roads and running on trails, you're not going to get a stick through your upper if you're running on the road. You're not going to get them destroyed by mud. I remember that kind of shock where these uppers are disintegrating. So I totally agree with you. So I mean, what's next for you, man? What's the next steps?
So we've got a couple of big sort of races coming up. So I've got a placemaking job for Toby Golter, who won the uphill this year. He's trying to go up the 1 hour track record. So he wants me to roll around for 10 or 12 Ks for him. So that'll be exciting, trying to hold on to his sort of rapid pace on the flat, and then into the Luxmore Grunt, and then that'll be pretty much this year over with, and then into hopefully some of the series stuff next year.
So talk about that on the track. What is the 1 hour record on the track?
I think it's about 20.1 kilometres, but it's a long-standing record from the 60s by Bill Bailey, who's one of the Lydiard kind of disciples, and it's been a really long held one. Hayden Wild had to go at it about 3 years ago and just didn't get probably the right conditions to do it. So Toby, I think he's up in Flagstaff at the moment, trying to train up and get ready to come in and roll in and take that one down. So it'll be exciting.
And where will you do it?
It's going to be up at Mount Smart, which I think could be a little bit of a lottery on terms of conditions, but hopefully it'll play ball and it'll be exciting, and just do my little part and push out to the front for the little 2 or 3 Ks that I'm in the front of the little train, and then sort of come off and yeah.
So in terms of a pace, I mean, he's in Arizona, so he's training at a higher altitude, hey,
Yeah,
and
I think
going to come
yes.
down to sea level at Mount Smart. As a pace, how many paces are there? What are you? I mean, this is alien stuff. What are you doing?
I think there's about 6 or 7 guys at the moment that are sort of signed up. So there'll be probably a pacemaker for the first 3 Ks, and then there'll be one from 3 to 6, one from 6 to 9, 9 to 12, and it'll kind of depend, I guess, on how people are going on the day, depending on whether they roll off or whether they sort of hold on for a bit longer. I think Toby's running at such a level now that I'll probably be one of the later ones at about 13-ish Ks. So he's got to do that whole probably last 6 or 7 Ks potentially by himself. But that's how it rolls when he's running that fast. And I think he's coming off about a 1:3 or 1:2 something half in Melbourne. So he's third place over there. So he's rolling pretty fast at the moment.
Wow, that's incredible. And then you're off to the Luxmore Grunt, which is such an incredible race. I mean, the Kepler's amazing. Kepler Challenge is just top notch. And the Luxmore Grunt, what a kick in the ass that race is.
Yeah, I ran it once, 23, I think I ran it, and I thought I was feeling good, and then ran the first half, was doing all right, came back down, and then I was feeling not too bad, and I was speeding and sort of catching up to Jono, and I might be able to get him, and then the last sort of 5 Ks where it flattens off, it just kicks you in the ass, and some nasty tourist told Liam Dooley, who was behind me, they're like, oh, he's struggling a bit, and then suddenly he'd flying past me in about the last 200 or 300 metres. So, yeah, then I was just cramping up. It was just horrible. It's probably the longest race I think I've ever done as well. It's about 27. I haven't really raced too much at that longer kind of distance.
I mean, you've got that, and that's the thing, isn't it? You climb, you run out to Broad Bay, you climb up. That sucks no matter how fast you're going. You hit the hut, that's brilliant. Turn around, rip down, we're having the best time of our lives. That 8K downhill is fantastic. Then you hit Broad Bay again, and your quads go, what? What are we doing here? It's undulate, and it's not flat. That's the thing, isn't it? The 5K back out, it's not flat. It's such an incredible race.
I got caught on that track too many times. I did that in the World Cup race in France this year. I think I ran like that. I looked at the time, I was like, I ran the 7th fastest downhill, and I just suffered for the last 5 Ks as I was sort of meandering down, and everyone else was sort of firing back past me. But
I mean, you've got to have fun.
Oh, but that's sometimes the part of racing is that you put yourself out there and see how you're going, and sometimes it comes off, and sometimes it sucks and it really hurts. And
I had a coach who say it was 1 foot on the podium, 1 foot on a banana peel. That's how it's that balance, isn't it? Look, Michael, this has been so incredible talking to you, and I, for one, have just found like a sort of curtain's been opened into a really interesting facet of trail running. And look, you won't find. I love the fact that we constantly find new ways to include new runners into the sport, because it's amazing being outside and doing this. So I can't wait to see a mountain running series get up on its feet in New Zealand. And thank you for your generosity in speaking with me. I'd like to ask you the same question we ask every single person who comes on Dirt Church Radio, and that's Michael Sutton. What's been your greatest run ever?
I'd have to say 2010. When I was at secondary school, I went over to Liptovsky in Slovakia, and it was a world schools cross country, and we started in a little gravel car park, and me, the little Kiwi guy with bare feet, everyone else is wearing their spikes and running off, and then you sort of run around, do the first loop, and I'm sort of holding back in about 10th place or something, and then sort of come around to the second loop and sort of just holding to maybe top 5, and then got up into 3rd, and then sort of held that on to the finish, and I think that's probably my greatest day, and no one sort of expected anything of me. We had a couple of like really sort of fast guys that were winning a lot of stuff in New Zealand, and that was probably the highlight so far. Hopefully there might be some more highlights. I mean, there's heaps of other races I could talk about, but it's
The Barefoot Bandit, eh? That's incredible.
Yeah.
Look, Michael, thank you so much for coming on Dirt Church Radio, and good luck for your pacing, and good luck for Luxmore.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Matt. And it's great having you guys, I guess, as a voice there for trail and for that side of the sport as well, because we need those kind of people out there promoting it and talking about the sport and getting people excited. And yeah,
It's our pleasure, man. Thank you. Before we go, should we give the people a rundown of where we're going to be next? Andrew, you are going to be
at Y2K in 2.5 odd weeks. And then Kepler, flying the flag for DCR at the start of December. What is it, the 5th or so? Anyway, what I know is that you run Kepler, and then the next morning you wake up and you check to see if you got into Western States or Hard Rock.
Ooh.
It's always a big weekend. Always
down to Sandfly. That's right.
Yeah.
Everyone just looking.
That's the one.
Just looking.
Refresh.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ellie, you're going to Ultra Kosciuszko?
Yeah, and before that, I'm at Queenstown Marathon. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah, there, and then Cosy, and then the Spectacle.
Yeah, same weekend as Kepler.
Yeah.
This weekend, December.
Spectacle.
Yeah, we'll be down at the Spectacle.
Gosh, that's going to be an episode to put together afterwards, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It will be.
Holy moly.
You're going to need your cornflakes. Yeah, incredible. But look, we're going to be out and about over the summer. We're really excited. And thank you to you guys. Thank you to Michael Sutton for jumping on. And we're really excited to see where we all end up down the trail. But look, Dirt Church Radio is presented by me, Matt Raymond.
Me, Ali Pottinger.
And me, Andrew McDowell.
We're on all the podcast platforms, so like, follow, and give us a rating. It really helps. We're on social media at Dirt Church Radio, and you can email us at dirtchurchradio@gmail.com.
Remember to sign up to our Substack for a weekly newsletter and aid station podcast, and also write in with your greatest run ever. We'd love to hear from you, and you can read them on the website too.
And thanks to our supporters Further Faster, That's It, Squad Run, and our Substack subscribers and the DCR Aid Station crew. Stay tuned for our show in 2 weeks when we have another great guest lined up.
Mā te wā.